What's happening, people? You're listening to the Introverted Nerd Watches. I am Reese, and I am back after missing last week's episode. Oh, I'm so angry. So here's what happened. I recorded an episode. I recorded for episode 2. But that shit got lost to the internet. And I was just too pissed to try to re-record the episode. I was just like, fuck it. I was so mad. You don't even know how mad I was. But, I'll just consider it what happens to a podcaster. It's like earning my podcaster stripes. You lose an episode to the internet, So yeah, I'm learning and growing. That wasn't my fault though. Yeah, so I didn't learn anything. If I had learned something, it would have been learning how to get the fucking episode back after I lost it, but whatever. I'm not upset about it anymore. Can't you tell? I'm so calm. But I'm back for episode 3 of Black Lightning. Long ass episode title about to be inserted here. This shit was called The Book of Consequences, Chapter 3, Master Lowry. Mike Lowry is the new principal at Freeland High School. But before we get into Mike Lowry and everything that's going on with the Pierces, let me just tell you that you need to subscribe to the podcast. It is available on Apple Podcasts if you have an iOS device, or if you are like me and you can only afford that Android, or you're trying to save some money, so you buy an Android. You can listen so many other ways. You can subscribe on Google Podcasts or Stitcher. I'm also available on iHeartRadio and Spotify. So wherever you get your podcast, subscribe, leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or rate and review the podcast anywhere else you can. Recommend the podcast to your friends and family. And let's get into Black Lightning. I almost forgot the name of the show because I'm reading this fucking title. Actually, I'm not even going to complain about the title this week because it's not as long as the rest of the titles. The other 2 titles have been for this season. Like, okay, I promise after this episode, I'm not going to bring up the long titles anymore because it'll just be an every week thing. But I get it. They have a whole theme that they're going with. So it's the book of this year is the Book of Consequences. I forget what last year was. It was like the book of something. But this year it's the Book of Consequences. And, we have to go through it like it's chapters. I get it. I understand. I see where you're coming from. Brock Akils. I think that's the showrunner's name. But do better. Like, we don't really need this. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they could do differently. I feel like you don't need to put the chapters in there. If you're going, like, you could do Book of Consequences for the first episode and then go chapter by chapter. So Book of Consequences, chapter 1, whatever the title of the first episode was. And then for the rest of the season, go chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and, do something like that. We don't need these long ass titles every week. I swear, it's too much for me. It is and it's worse if I don't like the episode, the title of it just makes me more angry. So when it's a long ass title and I don't like the episode, expect me not to say anything about it because I already promised that I wasn't going to bitch about these titles every week from now on. Okay, I'm done with the titles. Anyway, last week's episode, let me just give you my quick thoughts about last week. I liked that episode. Tobias was back with his anti-blackness. Oh, Tobias. It was so, I could not stop laughing on the podcast last week when talking about Tobias's um he called please big lip Negroes or something like that. Oh my god. I was dying. I could not stop laughing. Um It's still funny. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I am just so his racism, his anti-blackness, just it really makes me happy. And I know that sounds bad. I'm a black person who is like championing this character being anti-black, but it is so funny to me. It's so funny. And I know I'm glad that I'm not the only one. The guys over at Why So Serious podcast, Devin and Brandon, they really love Tobias's anti-blackness too. So yay. It's not just me. I'm not just like a weirdo out here liking that shit by myself. They like it too. So be mad at them too. So yeah. I got problems with Anissa. I'm not loving Anissa anymore. I mean, aside from the fact that she's not really a great actress, I mean, they don't really. I'm having problems with what they're doing with this character. Anissa is supposed to be an intelligent young woman. She's supposed to be in medical school, but she's kind of all over the place, and I feel like they don't know what to do with her, and they're not really portraying her as like the intelligent young woman that she's supposed to be. Yeah, so they're having problems with that. And I mean, this is all stuff I recorded last week. I'm so pissed. So yeah, last week's episode was fine. Tobias was like my highlight. And let's get into this week, episode 3. It's okay. This episode is called the main title of this episode is Master Lowry, because the principal is Mike Lowry. Because somebody on this show has seen Bad Boys a number of times, so we have to do this whole Mike Lowry thing. And I can't, like, everybody has been doing it. I know you can't say Mike Lowry without saying it the way that Martin Lawrence said it in Bad Boys. Like, you can't, like, it's almost impossible to do it. I have to like stop myself, or I'll be doing it in this entire episode. But it's called Master Lowry, but that guy is not really in this episode a whole lot. He's in the beginning of the episode, but we don't see him again. It's basically we're not supposed to like this guy at all. They called the episode Master Lowry. When we see him, he speaks to Jeff, and he's already establishing that he's not that he wants to be like separate from everybody. He wants to maintain sort of a distance, because Jefferson introduces himself as Jeff, like, hey, you can call me Jeff. And Lowry says, no, Mr. Pierce. He addresses him as Mr. Pierce. And then he says, when Jeff calls him, like, is like, oh, like, takes his lead and like, okay, Mr. Lowry. And he stops him and is like, no, it's Principal Lowry. So this guy is a dick. We're not supposed to like him or sympathize with him or anything like that at all. We just have to, like, he's going to be the bad guy. And I was saying, in what I recorded last week, that I don't feel like this guy is going to be here like next season. I think that this is a 1 season thing. I don't even know that this will last the entire season, but maybe. I feel like we're working toward Jeff getting his job as the principal back eventually in this season. Sometime in this season, he's going to be principal of Freeland High School again. Is that what this school called? Freeland High School? Whatever. I can't remember. But I feel like Jeff will definitely be principal again. Like, I'll be surprised if Jeff is not principal by the end of this season, because I don't think that Mike Lowry can last. The type of guy that they're portraying, like, in only the 5 minutes that we see him, and not even 5 minutes. the like minimal amount that we see him, he's just sort of established as just the kind of guy that won't last in this school, that, you know, he's gonna do something that's like wrong. He's gonna treat a student in the wrong way. I won't even be surprised if they make him like racist, if they make him do something racist or something like that, just to get him the fuck out of there. But so Jeff finds out that they're immediately like installing metal detectors in the school. So, you know, when the students show up, it's basically going to be like jail. And I know this life because I was in middle school when Columbine happened. I was like in 8th grade, I think, 7th or 8th grade, whatever. And immediately, like after Columbine happened, like not long after it happened, I showed up at school one day and we had metal detectors in school. We had cops in our school. Yeah, so we had the full thing. And when I got to high school, we had to like walk through the metal detectors and we had to put our bags through the conveyor belts. Like they made us go into the basement of our school because I went to like a really small high school. So I mean, like into the basement. It was like our school was 2 floors, so it wasn't like that far. But I went into the basement. We had to walk into the basement of the school, walk through the standing metal detectors, be wanded by a security guard once we walked through the metal detectors, and we had to put our bags through the conveyor belt. So yeah, prison, like or like visiting a jail or something like that. So yeah, that was life for me. And I went to like a small sort of like magnet high school. So it was still a public school, but it was like a small magnet high school. So I can't even imagine what somebody like who went to like a giant like city public school went to. Oh, I know they had it terribly. And it's really fucked up that happened to us, because it was like I went to a majority well, it's not majority black, but majority people of color. Like it was majority like black, brown, Asian, like Asian kids at my school. Very few white kids. And we were getting treated like criminals. But the kids that shot up Columbine, 2 white dudes. Whatever. You know, that's life though, right? Whatever. Anyway, I'm still pissed about that. I hated that. So what are they doing in this episode? This was like a kind of a transition episode, I think. Like not a whole lot happens until the end of the episode, really. It's just sort of like this felt like another setup episode. Jennifer is finally dealing with her is finally made to deal with her feelings about her powers, and that's something that I'm really happy about. She is finally taking the initiative to learn how to control her powers. She's she does this little thing where she shocks Anissa, and she tells Anissa like, hey, yeah, this is like, she's kind of proud of herself because she taught herself how to do this little shock thing. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's finally her taking some initiative to learn how to control her powers, because I am probably one of few people that is like, I'm cool with Jennifer not wanting to be a superhero. I'm cool with her not even wanting her powers. I'm not cool with everybody sort of pretend like not making her learn how to control her powers, because that's a problem for me. So in this episode, we finally deal with it. And she also gets to see a psychiatrist or a therapist. Maxine Shaw, attorney at law, is a meta named Perenna, who creates she's a therapist recommended by Gamby to the Pierces, and she creates these illusions, and like these she manifests other realities, and pulls people into them so that they can work out their feelings in that way. I'm not exactly sure what if she's a real like somebody from the comic books or something like that. Her name's Perenna. Or whether she's just sort of made up for the show. But anyway, Jen is seeing her now, and the Pierces, Jen really gets shit on a lot. I don't understand why she gets treated the way that she does by her family. Like, okay, so in the first season, I was not a huge fan of Jennifer for a lot of the first season. Because the teenage thing is like, I have like very short tolerance for teenager stuff, and especially sort of this CW teenagery thing that goes on. So I have very like low tolerance for that. So for a bit of the first, probably the first half of the first season, I was like, oh, get her off my screen. I'm so tired of her. And then eventually I got to a point where it's like, okay, her family is sort of neglecting her and treating her like crap. And they sort of treat her like she's this sort of, like she's this angsty teenager, but they don't acknowledge the real shit that has happened to make her feel, or to make her act out in the way that she's acting out. So she gets kidnapped she gets kidnapped in the first season by the dude Will. Her boyfriend gets shot in front of her, and then he like really treats her badly, calling her names online and shit like that. At the end of the season, she watches her mother and Gamby shoot and kill people, and she like hurts someone as well. She doesn't know whether she killed someone. She watches her father get killed and she resurrects him. Like, she's had a ton of shit going on, but they all sort of act like, oh, look at Jennifer overreacting to everything that's happening around her. And I'm like, no, she is not overreacting. You guys are underreacting. You guys are not treating her the way that you should. Lynn is a medical professional. She, Jefferson works with children in high school. Like, these are people that should be like more on the ball. And I just feel like they want us to look at Jennifer and be like, oh, look at, she's just being a silly teenager. She's overreacting to everything. But it's like, no, you can't do that when you have the type of traumatic shit that happened to her happen. You can't just push it off to like she's being a silly teenager. You can't have it both ways. And I feel like that's what they're trying to do on this show. And it's really frustrating me because, okay, so Jeff and Lynn decide to have Perenna ambush Jennifer while she's going on her walk. Like, Jennifer can't go to school because she can't control her powers. So they have her staying at home. She can basically only go outside for like an hour or so a day to take a walk around the park. And while she's taking that walk, they have Perenna basically walk up on her, because Perenna thinks that it's a good idea to meet Jennifer in a sort of neutral place. And it's like, what, like, are you crazy? Like, she walks up to Jennifer, she says her name, she puts Jennifer on the defensive immediately. So you have me questioning Perenna's like expertise. And then she takes her into this like false reality that she creates, and Jennifer, of course, freaks out. And it's like, who decided to do this? And then when Jennifer confronts her parents about it, they're like, they act like they're surprised that she reacts in that way. And it's like, come on, you guys. I need them to be better. I just need them to be better parents, to be, or maybe I just need the writers to write this shit differently so that it doesn't come off this way, because come on. So Jennifer eventually, like, she has a nice moment with Jeff where Jeff sort of blames himself for everything that's happening with her. And Jennifer lets it be known that she thinks that her parents think that she's a monster. So that's sad. And she's, a cute little moment where she and Jeff, or not cute, but a nice moment, nice father-daughter moment where Jeff hugs her and, he doesn't, they sort of just have a nice father-daughter moment, which is, nice. But, so eventually she does go back to see Perenna, and, they go into this reality, this, fake reality of a hair salon. And, Perenna tells Jennifer that she has to put her emotions into a box, and Jennifer creates a gold box for all of her emotions to go into. And by the end of the episode, Perenna tells her, in order to put your emotions in a box, you have to let me know what your emotions are. And then we sort of see Jennifer sort of looking like Johnny Storm again, like flaming on. She's sort of burning up and screaming, and that's all we see of that. I'm guessing that Perenna is going to be here for a while because Jennifer's got a ton of problems. So Lynn is trying to figure out this pod people shit, and Petty Odell, Agent Odell, who I started calling Petty Odell. This guy is just he is just fucking with Lynn. Like, so Lynn said she needs help, to do this, whatever she's trying to do, figure out this cure, whatever she's trying to do. And the only person he recommends is sort of this person, that's this doctor, this chemist that's locked up for killing a person and doing illegal experiments on people, basically. And that's his that's who he recommends to her. And Lynn is like, gets mad, and she's like, I think you're trying to sabotage me. And he's like, nah, if I was trying to sabotage you, you would have failed already. And Lynn goes back at him and is like, you know what? If something happens to these kids, it'll be on you. And Petty Odell is like, nah, boo. You stole this job. So anything that happens after that is all on you. And last week he was laughing in her, like he was chuckling in her face. This week he's not having any of her bullshit. And I am Petty Odell for the win. I love this guy. He is so great. I can't get enough of him. Oh, Petty Odell. He is just, he's just not here for Lynn's bullshit. He's just, he's great. I love him. What's his name? Bill Duke. That guy is great. He's a treasure. He needs to be protected at all costs. I want him to stay on this show forever. So that's basically what's happening with Lynn. She's not a whole lot in this episode. Anissa is still doing her Robin Hood thing, and this week it's about somebody is closing the free clinic, or they brought up a whole bunch of property around this free clinic, and they're closing down the free clinic, and they're going to build, I don't know, whatever they're going to build. But Gamby finds out that they're not actually going to build anything. They bought up this land or these properties, and it's basically just going to be in development hell forever. And if you live in a big city, there's probably something like that's happened in your city as well. Something that, they sell you on how they're going to make this particular space, really beautiful, and it's going to be a tourist destination, or it's going to bring so much money to the city. And then, 5 years later, it's still in development, and, nothing's going to happen with it. So that's basically what's supposed to happen here. And Anissa, sees that they're going to close down the free clinic on the news, and she goes back to do her Robin Hood thing. She goes, First, she goes back to see the pastor to try to get him to use some of the money that she already gave him to keep the clinic open. And he's like, sorry, girl, we already used up all that money. And she asked him, well, how much money would you need to keep the clinic open? And he right away is like $300K. See, I don't know whether it's my like being an atheist that makes me so like skeptical of these religious folks when they start asking for money. But yeah, I wasn't trusting the pastor. Like he brought out that 300K number like right away. And I'm like, really? Okay, and so, and he's so happy to be accepting this money. He's not wondering where it's coming from. I was like suspicious when he said that all the money had been like distributed to the people that needed it for the lawyers. And I was like, yeah, okay. He was just not looking like he was not looking like he was on the up and up to me. Like I was like side-eyeing the shit out of this pastor, but maybe he was telling the truth. I mean, because they don't really do anything like big to make him seem like shady or anything. Maybe it's just me being sort of naturally skeptical of religious people. Sorry, religious people, but that's just the way it is. I gotta look at you guys. I gotta, keep my eye on you guys. That's what I gotta do. So she decides that she ends up recruiting Gamby to help her steal money from the people that are actually buying out the properties. And she finds out that it's sort of a fake thing, that they're doing. They have like this shadow business, whatever they have going on. Anissa has a fight. She is still inhaling and, doing big inhales and making a lot of noise to do her, like the thunderclap is cool, but the other stuff I could do, like the inhaling, I could really do without. It's so annoying. They need to stop it. I don't know why they didn't stop it after the first season. Like, come the fuck on. Like, they make her, she's basically a fucking ninja now. Like, she's flipping all over the place. But it's like, you can do that, but you can't stop with the loud inhales. Like, we all get it. Like, as soon as we saw her do the thunderclap, we would all get it. Like, okay, she learned how to do the inhale without being loud and annoying about it. But I never get what I want. So she's still doing that loud inhale while she flips all over the place. Ugh, it's so annoying. That inhale is like, I grit my teeth every time she does it. It makes me, I really don't like it. So Anissa's being Robin Hood, but she is also being told by her sister that she needs to settle down. I don't know why Jennifer and Anissa have this whole conversation about how Anissa was messing around with Zoe. That's the girl from last week. Her name is Zoe. She's supposedly like really famous. I didn't get that from the show. Like, it was kind of confusing to me last week, her whole thing with Zoe. I thought she knew Zoe at first, but it turns out she didn't. I couldn't tell whether Zoe was supposed to be like a super famous person or whether she was just some chick doing an open mic night. Like, I didn't get any of it. So this week we find out for sure she's supposed to be famous. There are pictures of Zoe and Anissa on, Instagram or something like that, on social media. And Jennifer's advice to Anissa is that she needs to, stop playing around with Zoe because that's not a good look for her. And I'm like, why is that not a good look? Like, Zoe is fine as shit. Like, that woman is good looking. I mean, I could, whatever with their relationship, but I didn't understand where Jennifer was coming from about Zoe, but I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, that chick wasn't a great actress anyway. And Anissa needs people to be better around her. She does not need people that are like on her level or just like a notch above. She needs people to be like a lot better to like to like offset her awfulness. So listening to Jennifer about settling down and she needs a special person in her life, she decides to go see Grace at her bar. She walks up to the bar and I'm like, on Twitter last week, I was like, Anissa is so lucky that she is fine because she is corny as shit. So but she she goes up to the bar with Grace and she apologizes and she is like, I'm sorry that you saw me like that. And she makes it clear, which I appreciate, that she and Grace were not in a relationship. So when Grace says, I caught you there, and Anissa's like, no, you didn't catch me, because we weren't in a relationship. And I'm like, okay, I actually agree with her. They weren't in a relationship, but Anissa does apologize for like ghosting her. And she tells Grace, like, I hope you weren't sitting around because you too fine to be doing that. And that's what made me think like, oh, she is such a corny old man. You too fine to be sitting around by yourself. That is such an old man line. I swear, like, a guy on the street has said that to me before, and it was just as corny when Anissa said it. Like, she's good looking and it all, and I would roll my eyes, but I would keep talking to her. But come on, Anissa. Like, oh, she's such a cornball. I just don't understand her. But Grace sort of is like buying into her bullshit because Grace knows that Anissa is corny, but she's looking at her, so she can't turn her down. And so I'm guessing that this means that Grace and Anissa are about to be a couple now. Finally, I wanted Grace back because Grace is really pretty too. Hey Grace. Whoever that lady is, the woman is that plays Grace, like, she's really cute. I like her. So yeah, I'm guessing they're going to be a thing now. Maybe we can get Anissa back into medical school and like doing other shit. Like, I don't know where this Robin Hood thing is going to go with her. The fact that the pastor hasn't figured out who she is. Like, she covers her face in a mask, but you can sort of still see her hair, and she doesn't change her voice at all. So like, I feel like anybody who knows her at that church would immediately recognize, like, Anissa, is that you? But the pastor doesn't recognize her, and nobody in that church recognized her the first time she brought that money. So we'll see, I guess. So on to my man Tobias, because he was on fire again in this episode. So Tobias is he's decided that he just likes fucking with Khalil. So he starts the episode by burning paper in Khalil's hands, making him explain the whole system they have set up for collecting money. So yeah, just burning paper in his hands. Then he later in the episode, after Khalil brings like the pickup, the money pickup to him, Tobias is sitting in his his apartment with an Asian woman doing his nails, talking like Khalil walks in like the other Milli Vanilli person, like the third member of Milli Vanilli, because that's what those dreads are looking at like now. And he puts the bag down next to Khalil, and Khalil's like explaining to him how the dude that he was supposed to be picking up the money from was making excuse, like he was with some girl and he was making excuses. And Tobias goes into this whole thing about he basically just shits on black fathers. He's like, look at this guy over here, just gonna make another baby that he's not gonna be taken care of. And he's smiling at the lady doing doing his nails and she's nodding along with him. It was so funny. And then he's like, yeah, Khalil, you didn't grow up with your father either, did you? And Khalil's like, no, but my mom raised me. And Tobias don't want to hear that shit. It is just so hilarious. He I'm like, and it makes it so much funnier because we know that he's like he has to be like a 70-year-old man, and he's in this young man's body, so he's talking like Uncle Ruckus while he's looking like a guy that's in his like mid to late 30s or something like that. Like he's a young guy, but he's talking like your grandfather, your great grandfather or something like that. It is so funny. I could watch him do this like every week. Or maybe not. Maybe I just want to pace myself because I don't want to get too much Tobias. I don't want him to get like overrun. I just want him to be his amazing self. It is so funny watching him the lady do his nails and nod. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, is she just doing that because she knows she has to, or does she really, or is he like really like talking to this lady like how these niggas are? Like, does he talk to this lady like that? Like, like she anti-black too, so he's talking to her because he has like an anti-black like co-conspirator now. Who knows? So Khalil has got problems in this episode because Tobias tells him like the guy that is standing you up is he's just going to keep on being a problem. You have to nip this in the bud. And Khalil, being his reckless self, ends up killing a guy by accident, but he walks out like, with his swagger on, like he meant to do that. But he's walking around killing people now. Like Khalil is so fucking reckless. And he's scared. He's tired of Tobias. Obviously, we can see that throughout the episode that he's getting tired of the Tobias thing. Tobias tells him he has to take on more responsibility since Cyanide is dead. But Khalil is like really. The remarks that Tobias is making, like burning paper and shit in his hands and talking about him not having a daddy is really starting to get on his nerves. So he ends up killing like one of the drug dealers that he was trying to get in line. And that is okay, here's where things get a little bit complicated for me. So Henderson goes to Jefferson to tell him like, yo, I need Black Lightning to help find the guy that killed the cop. Basically looking for Tobias because they know it could only be a short list of people that committed this crime, because they end up after Tobias shot that cop, he got somebody else to burn the car, like to burn everything in it, to burn, the evidence basically. And so Henderson goes to Jefferson and is like, yo, find out who burned this car or who paid to have it burned. And we'll find Tobias that way. So, because it turns out that in the school, there was no video surveillance of Tobias or Cyanide at the school. So basically all they have is Khalil there attacking the school by himself. And they can't use the video footage that they have in Jefferson's goggles. So as far as everybody's concerned, Khalil is the only one that attacked the school. And, Tobias is sort of free and clear of that. So Jefferson does find the guy that, and Khalil is involved because Khalil is the one that paid the guy to burn the car after Tobias killed the cop. Khalil once again being like really reckless. The guy recognized him by the gauntlets he has on his arms. So Jefferson goes to Khalil's mom. Khalil's mom calls him, and Khalil meets with Jefferson, but he doesn't give Jefferson any information. He basically just makes Jefferson mad, and Jefferson gets one of his needle things so that he could take it back to Gamby because that's what Gamby wanted. Um, but he doesn't get any information from Khalil. Khalil just sort of runs out of there. And we see Tobias at the end of the episode in the mausoleum visiting, I think it's his sister. And then the police show up and they catch him. So I'm like, if Khalil didn't tell Jeff anything, like he didn't give Jeff any information. He basically, the only thing he tells Jeff is that he's scared and that Jeff can't help him. And he tells Jeff that he almost Tobias was going to kill him. So like, you can't help me do anything. So I want to know how they found Tobias, because if Khalil didn't say anything, and nobody else would know where he is, like, how they get him, bro? So the thing that I was thinking was that maybe Tobias wanted to be caught. Because, okay, this is the whole thing I went over in my head. And this may be just me like reaching and overthinking all of this. So here's my theory. So Tobias wants to be caught. He gets caught at the mausoleum. He gets taken into jail. I'm thinking that maybe he wants to go on trial, because when he's arrested, they arrest him for Jefferson's father's murder, is the charge against him, is what Henderson says. So I was thinking, does he want to be caught and to clear his name so that he can move around Freeland freely? So if he killed his former right-hand man Marcellus, he gets information from the cop and then he kills the cop, then the only other witness to his killing of Jefferson's father is Jefferson. But I'm thinking that, a little boy that is traumatized by the death of his father, like, I feel like they could do something to put Jefferson's testimony into question. So I'm wondering, Tobias clears his name. That means that he can just be in Freeland and do whatever the fuck he's going to do in Freeland, as a free man. So, that's what I was thinking. Now, I haven't seen any of the scenes from next week, so I could be completely wrong, and Tobias could be thinking that Khalil turned on him. Who the hell knows? So, and at the end of the episode, VP Thirsty shows up passed out on Gamby's, like, in front of his apartment door. Like, I don't know how she got there. Like, she jumps out of a window. Which I'm calling bullshit on. Like, I didn't call bullshit on in that episode that I did, but I'm like, how does she jump through that window? Like, those windows are supposed to be like this reinforced glass that, whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I was like, what? When she jumped out of that window and the glass just broke that way, like, if she had jumped into that window, it would have just been like her sliding down the window, still inside the room. If it was actually, the way that it was supposed to be, but she jumped out of the window, whatever. She's on Tobias's doorstep now, and maybe in the next episode she'll finally tell him what hell is in that briefcase that Tobias has. So yeah, and that is the end of the episode, you guys. I'm hoping that I'm happy. I want to see more of Jennifer having to deal with her feelings with Perenna, because I like Maxine Shaw, attorney at law. And I think Perenna is an interesting character. I want to see what's going to happen with Anissa and this whole Robin Hood thing she has going on, because I don't know how long that can last. I want to see what's going to happen with Principal Mike Lowry, because this guy is going to be a problem, and I want to know how far that's going to go before, everybody gets tired of it and Jefferson is, principal again. And I want Lala to come back. I really miss Lala. They mentioned him in this episode. When referring to Khalil, they said that he was walking around acting like Lala, and I was like, oh, bring back Lala. Team Bring Back Lala 2018. So I want to see Lala come back, the tattoo man. See what he's doing. So that is it, you guys. You should follow me on the socials. I'm at NerdTravertPod on Twitter. Use the hashtag NerdyWatch because I live tweet all of this shit every week using that hashtag. So live tweet along with me. I'm on Instagram at The Introverted Nerd, and like the Facebook page at facebook.com/The Introverted Nerd. And if you would like to email me your theories about what is happening on this show, or The Gifted, or Saved by the Bell, or whatever, send it to theintrovertednerd@gmail.com, and I will talk to you for episode 4. It's going to be called The Book of Consequences, Chapter 4. Insert another long ass title. So until the next episode, you guys, bye.